I've never been more confused on a video game after playing it the way I have with this one. And it kind of fucks me up because for the past, 20 years, the only real wrestling games we've gotten is from the WWE, with the exception of like Backyard Wrestling back in the PS2 days, and that TNA joint we had, and Def Jam Vendetta. I can't think of too many wrestling games we've had other than the WWE games. And don't get it twisted, I love the WWE games. That's my childhood, but I still want variety. So when I found out that another wrestling company was coming out with their own video game, I got excited. The wrestling company in question is AEW with their new release, AEW Fight Forever. Now I'm gonna keep real with you, I meant what I said when I said this game got me mad confused. I don't know whether to like it for the things I like it for, or hate it for what it's done to me. I'll explain both reasons in a minute, but I just want to get that off my chest real quick. AEW Fight Forever is a wrestling game released on June 29th, 2023, so basically like a couple weeks ago. Not only is it AEW's first game, but it's also our first wrestling game in 2023. Now, the thing about Fight Forever is the people who made this game actually made the old WWE games from back in the day. You know, the SmackDown vs. Raw games, or the Here Comes the Pains, or the Shut Your Mouth. They made that, right? It's THQ and Yuke's. Those companies started out making the WWE games, and I think they went bankrupt for 5-10 years, and now they're back making AEW Fight Forever. I think the last game they made before Fight Forever, the last wrestling game I mean, was WWE 13, which came out in 2012. So it's been 11 years. So not only was this AEW's first, but in a way this was THQ and Yuke's comeback. And that was a pretty good selling point, because finding out the people who helped make SmackDown vs. Raw and all the other WWE games that came before it, basically people's childhoods, are now part of this new wrestling game, folks was ready. You had people comparing it to WWE No Mercy, rightfully so, because I'm pretty sure that's where they got their inspiration from. The game was highly anticipated is what I'm getting at. Now this is what I'm going to do first. First I'm going to start with everything I loved about this game. Then we go get into the bad. Alright, so Fight Forever works like this. Alright, you have a collection of matches. You have one-on-ones, you have tag teams, triple threats, fatal four-ways. 4 people in one ring is the limit for this game. Now, you can't really do any excess matches in triple threats or fatal four-ways or even tag team matches, but for the one-on-ones, that's where all the other game modes come in. The ladder matches, the falls count anywhere matches, the lights out matches. And for those of you who don't know, a lights out match is like the AEW version of an Extreme Rules match. And there's also an exploding ring death match. We gonna get into that in a minute. Now, the fighting system for this game, in my opinion, is the best aspect of Fight Forever. You have your light attacks in square, your strong attacks in triangle, your grapples with X, and your Irish Whip with circle. Originally R1 was Irish Whip, but I changed the controls for my personal enjoyment. And I think the setup works pretty good. You know, they have their own little combos you can do in the game. Combos that are separated for both triangle and square, but also combos that are shared. Now, it's not like Street Fighter or Mortal Kombat where you have a collection of different combos that you can put together at the same time, but it's more so like a Def Jam Fight for New York. The combos are different, but they're limited compared to who you play as. Actually, now that I think about it, that's not the only thing they share with Def Jam. There's also the difference between strong grapples and light grapples. In order for you to do a light grapple, you tap X, but if you want to do a strong one, you hold it. And it really pays off because the strong grapples aren't just stronger in comparison to the light ones, they're also a lot more flashier. Whether it's in the middle of a ring, in the corner, or against the rope, strong grapples are always the best to use against an opponent. They're also kind of ridiculous, but fun as hell to look at. There's this one move that I can do with my created character where you put an opponent up against the ropes and then you jump on a turnbuckle and then you kind of walk on the ropes and you kick him in the face. Ridiculous as fuck, but man does it look good. And the moves look explosive. The violence in this game is perfect. Whether you're slamming someone in the middle of the mat or even slamming somebody into the barricades, it looks devastating. You can suplex or crack somebody over a barricade and the shit just collapses. Or better yet, you can throw someone onto the steel steps, lift them up and slam them on the edge. Even the tables, when you slam someone through a table, you feel that shit. You hear the crunching, you can hear the person's bones breaking as the table collapses. This game did a really amazing job at making you feel the environment and what's happening in it. When you grab someone and throw them in a ring post, it's like you can feel their shoulder dislocating from their body. And don't even get me started on the lights out matches. The lights out matches is like what I said before, it's the Extreme Rules version for AEW. You can find weapons under the ring per usual, or you can find them in the crowd. Now, an issue I do have with this one and compared to, let's say, an Extreme Rules match is in this one there's no weapon reel or weapon selection, which kind of sucks because in this one I think there's more weapons for the lights out matches than there are like weapons in the Extreme Rules matches for the WWE games, so you would need a weapon selection of sorts for this one. There's so many different weapons under that ring. It's like putting your hands in a mystery box. You don't know what's gonna come out. It could be something as simple as, say, I don't know, a chair or a baseball bat, or it can be something wacky like a skateboard. There's an actual skateboard in this game that if you pull out, you can ride it like it's a fucking Tony Hawk game. And this is where the ridiculous shit comes in. Let's say you're riding the board and you move towards the ring, you just automatically ride in it and you can do like fucking kick flips and back flips off of your opponent's face. It's ridiculous as hell, but it's fun and slightly accurate to how old school games used to be. Yeah, there's also weapons of mass destruction. There's a gas tank under the ring, and if you throw it at him, it will explode and take out anything in vicinity. This ain't wrestling no more, it's life and death. And they also have a classic that you might not see in too many wrestling games, but you've seen it in a number of wrestling matches. Thumbtacks. If you go under the ring, there is a chance you will find a bag of thumbtacks that you can pour into the middle of the mat. You can then grab your opponent and slam them on them. And the pain is very visible because not only do the thumbtacks stay there, they start bleeding profusely. THQ and Yuke's did their thing when it comes to the fighting system. It's like one big sandbox worth of thumbtacks and explosions and all types of violent interactions. Speaking of violent interactions, let's get to it. The exploding ring deathmatch. What the fuck? See, me, I don't really watch AEW like that. I see clips on YouTube here and there, I see matches on YouTube here and there, but I don't really tune in regularly. So you can imagine my surprise when I saw that there was an exploding ring deathmatch, an arena covered with barbed wires and flames in this game. And apparently AEW really does this shit. Let's just talk about the game one. So yeah, you have a ring covered with barbed wires, with tables also covered with spikes on each corner of the ring. And you and your opponent are stuck in there. And within 2 minutes of you being in that ring, the shit explodes and the person closest to the ropes takes the most damage. Now, as a kid, all the Buried Alive matches and the Inferno matches I used to play on the old SmackDown vs. Raw games, I thought those were like the most violent things that you can have in a wrestling game, right? Nah, this shit took the cake. The amount of blood I've seen in that ring at the end of these matches are crazy. Now, unlike an Inferno match, the goal isn't to throw your opponent out the ring. You still have to either pin them or submit them, but you're doing it in this death arena. And there's also this special thing you can do where if you have a finisher stored and the opponent is leaned up against the ropes, you can toss them over the ring and they land on these electrified tables covered in spikes. It is hands down the most violent match in this entire game. And it's also the most fun. You can slam your opponent into the tables in the corner, then they start gushing blood. Yo, this game is crazy. Other than the fight mechanics and the gameplay, I think another thing I like about this game is the online features. Mainly because I thought it might suck, seeing how this is a first game and all. But nah, they're pretty fluid. I haven't really had any issues with my connection. It's pretty fast to find a game, and the fight system is just as fluid online. Now, these are all the things I like about the game. Now you're finna get into the things that fucked me up. So there's a mode in this game called Road to Elite. When I first saw Road to Elite, I'm thinking, okay, it's like this game's version of the Road to WrestleMania, right? And seeing how the people who made Road to WrestleMania made this one, I'm thinking, okay, shit, it might be fun. I was slightly mistaken. Road to Elite is a story that is followed through technically the eyes of any character that you choose, but you can also choose your created character. And I want to tell you the story, but I can't. Mainly because there's no real sense of direction. See, it starts off like this. You're working out in the gym, and then you get a call from Tony Khan saying that he wants you on the roster. That's a pretty cool beginning, that's fun. And then your first match is a Casino Royale, which is basically like a Royal Rumble for AEW. Now that's your first match. The whole story itself is kind of broken up into like different chapters, and each chapter has its own story. And none of the chapters really follow each other per se. They don't really have much connection to one another. They're all just different storylines. For example, the first story, that's your introduction to AEW, your character, correct? Throughout that story, you get paired with Adam Page. You two end up becoming a tag team. Granted, you have to fight him first, but after you two have your first match, you two become a team. And y'all are playing these matches, and eventually you get to a pay-per-view where you two become the tag team champions. Which, that by itself makes no sense because there was no real build-up to that. And it's also kind of weird because I literally just started this shit an hour ago. How am I already a champion? Fine, whatever, it's cool, I'll accept it. Then right after, Adam Page reveals that he pulled a prank on us by hiding our ring gear, and then we super kick him. So the shit ends with us betraying Adam Page the second we win the tag team championship. After that, we move on to the next chapter, and then there's no more Adam Page. Bro disappears for the rest of the story. Our character in the next chapter ends up teaming up with the Death Triangle. And it's weird because it's like, okay, in the first chapter, I was with Adam Page, we were a team, we won the tag team championships, I betrayed him. All that shit's confusing and weird, but whatever, I'll accept it. Now I'm in this other chapter where I'm with the Death Triangle, but I'm still the tag team champions with Adam Page, but I don't see him anymore. He's not part of the fucking roster anymore, apparently. But I still got this belt on me, and so does he. So what happens now? That story just disappears? Am I supposed to forget that I won the tag team championship, not a chapter before this one? And here is where more confusion comes in. Death Triangle. In this chapter, you team with them, right? But around the end, you kind of have the choice on whether you want to stay with them or leave. Me, I chose leave. And if you choose to leave them, in the last match of the chapter, they cost you your match at a pay-per-view by jumping you. Now, that by itself makes no sense because that was a disqualification match. If I were to grab a weapon or some shit, I would get disqualified. So how is it that these two jump into the match and beat my ass and no one gets disqualified? Fine, whatever, it is what it is. But then I lose the match, obviously, because I can't take 3 guys when I'm by myself. Then I jump into the next chapter, and the whole Death Triangle arc just disappears. I don't get no type of get back. I lose a match that I know damn well I was gonna win. I get my ass kicked by these 3 guys and then nothing happens. I'm just supposed to forget about it. Y'all see what the fuck I'm saying? There's no sense of real direction in this shit. It's like you have your own mini story and things just happen and you're supposed to forget about it while you jump onto the next story in the next chapter. It feels less like a Road to Elite and more like a Twilight Zone. And maybe it's my fault for thinking that they were gonna make it the way they did with the Road to WrestleMania. You have your own stories with a collection of people, or even your own story with your own created character that has a beginning, a middle, and a proper end. But at the end of the day, I was disappointed. They could have done something where you have this character who's new to AEW and he spends the entire of the Road to Elite story trying to become the AEW champion. Or even if you don't want to do that, create another story that's solely based on one thing that your character follows. But instead they did this, and I'm not too happy about it. Another thing I don't like about this game is the commentary and the fact that there is none. Now, I'm thinking that the matches were going to be commentated over by Jim Ross and Excalibur, but instead of commentary, you have music, which is cool. I don't really mind that because they kind of did the same thing in Here Comes the Pain. But at the end of the day, you got Jim Ross, bro. Me personally, I'm utilizing him any way I can when it comes to commentary in a wrestling game. Like, the only time they really have him speak is in Road to Elite when he's introducing a pay-per-view.
The wait is over. You're watching All Elite Wrestling's Double or Nothing live from Las Vegas. Let's go to the ring for our high-stakes, Vegas-themed Casino Battle Royal match. The winner gets a AEW World Title shot.
You can't be serious, bro. Like, Jim Ross and Jerry Lawler are probably 2 of the best commentators I've heard in wrestling as a kid, and even up to now as an adult, right? And you don't have Jerry Lawler anymore, but you still have Jim Ross. Maybe I had my hopes too high for that one, but it is what it is. Like, for those of y'all who may not know, or may think I'm exaggerating when I say Jim Ross is one of the best commentators I've ever heard, I'm gonna give y'all an example of his commentary. I think that's a pretty good example. Granted, Jim Ross is a lot older now, so maybe his commentary might not be as good as when he was in the WWE, but still, I feel like y'all should have had him and Excalibur say something throughout the matches. But that's just a personal thing for me. Another thing I didn't like about this game was character creation. Bro, the creation aspect in this game is so limited. I've been playing this shit for like, what, a week or two, and I still don't know how to change the skin color for my character. I've been playing as this half white, half Asian guy for the past week and a half. Please help me. There's not too many outfits that you can really wear or customize for your character. You have tattoos and shit, but you can only put one per created character. You can't change or add any logos to any of your tights or pants for your created character. They got mad hairstyles, so I'll give them that. And as for the arenas, there's not really much creation in that, because all you're doing is taking other rings that are used for other arenas that were already made for the game and kind of switching them around and putting them together. Like the arena I made for this one, that's basically just AEW Dynamite but with a different stage and lighting. It's extremely limited. I will say this about the creations though. The movesets is great. I like that shit. I'm not going to dwell too much into that one, but creating your own movesets for your character, that shit works fine. As for the entrances, however, bro, they're mad lackluster. First of all, you can't even walk down the stage and go into the ring. It's just like a 10-second clip of your character or some other character at the front of the stage, and then it just transitions into your opponent's entrance. And me, I added pyro to my created character. I can't even really see the shit because you can't change the direction that the camera is looking at. Maybe you can and I haven't found it, but these are the issues I've been having. Now, if this game does get a sequel, maybe all the things I didn't like about it will be changed, but for now, these are just the things I didn't like about Fight Forever. Now, something I want to add before I dip is this game, even though it's AEW's first game, I don't want y'all to think of it as like an AEW or even a WWE thing. This is more so a THQ thing. A lot of these issues I'm not going to hold against AEW, I'm going to hold against THQ. They have at least 12 years worth of experience when it comes to wrestling games. And for this game to have the issues that I've seen, it kind of makes no sense. Like for example, there's an issue I had in like my matches, and they've done this in like multiple matches, but this one specifically is the one I decided to show. Where I'm playing as Jeff Hardy and I'm attacking my opponent, but while I'm attacking, I ended up teleporting in the middle of the ring and I couldn't escape. I couldn't roll out of it, I couldn't jump out of it, I didn't teleport back in. It was weird. It's a very nasty bug, and I'm not gonna say it's like a thing that happens every single match I play. It happens here and there, but the point is it shouldn't be happening at all. I'm not saying the game has to be perfect, but there's just certain mistakes that in my opinion shouldn't have been made. But other than that, that's really how I feel about it. I will say, despite the things I had bad to say about this game, bro, I love this shit. The fighting style is amazing. The gameplay is great. I'm loving this game. And I like the fact that it adds variety. Like for so long, we've had nothing but WWE games. And as I said prior, I love them shits. I do. That's my childhood. But I do think when it comes to this genre of wrestling games, we do need variety. And they tried with TNA's Impact Wrestling, the game that came out for like the PS3 and Xbox 360, but that game had its own issues. And it was the only one that we really got from TNA. I am hoping that AEW does make more games though, because this one right here, despite the bad things I had to say about it, I do think it is worth playing. It's not worth paying $60 though. That's another issue I have with this shit. This shit was not worth $60. I would have paid like maybe $30, maybe even $20. But 60 is a fuck no for me. I'll say if you do plan on playing this game, I'll say wait for it to be on sale. Don't pay $60 for this shit. But other than that, I still had fun playing it. And that's it for Reggie TV. I hope y'all enjoyed it. As I said, man, I'm in a wrestling mood. That 2K14 shit got me in a mood. Even though I did the Batman one, I'm thinking I might do like SmackDown vs. Raw 2009 next week. Either that or 2008. But for now, this is what I got for y'all. I'll see y'all on the next one. I appreciate y'all for watching, and I'm out.